Today, we're diving into the incredible story of a man the world chose to ignore, who was secretly building an empire, not of wealth, but of something much more precious, hope.
So let me ask you something. Think about the people you walk past every single day, maybe without a second glance. Could one of them be a hero in disguise? That very idea is at the heart of the amazing story we're about to unfold.
All right, let's get into it. Part 1, The Beggar's Secret. Our story begins with a man who is basically hiding in plain sight, carrying this incredible secret with him every single day.
So, picture this, a super busy city crossroads, right outside a bustling temple. And there, every single day, you'd find a beggar named Fakira. He was just part of the furniture, part of the background noise everyone had learned to tune out.
And this is how the world saw him. Tattered clothes, a rusty old begging bowl, this long, unkempt beard. He never said a word, just kept his head bowed. For all intents and purposes, he was completely invisible.
But here's where it gets a little weird. Every evening, he'd do the same thing. Once he had enough coins in his bowl, he'd just get up and vanish, disappear into this maze of narrow city alleys. Nobody knew where he went, and honestly, nobody really cared enough to ask.
But someone was watching, and their curiosity, well, it's what blows this entire story wide open. Which brings us to part 2, A Boy's Discovery.
Meet Raghu. He's just a 12-year-old kid who, and this is the ironic part, couldn't afford to go to school himself. So he spent his days collecting junk to sell. And from his spot, Fakir's strange little routine wasn't just background noise. No, to Raghu, it was a mystery he absolutely had to solve.
So, one day, he finally does it. He follows Fakira as he slips into those alleys. The path takes him to this crumbling, run-down old house way on the edge of town. Raghu creeps up to a window, finds a crack, and peeks inside. And what he sees just completely floors him.
Inside that falling-apart building were 70 kids.
And this was the secret. They were all orphans. But they weren't just being sheltered there, they were learning. It was a secret school with actual books and slates, all of it funded by the loose change dropped into a beggar's rusty bowl. Can you believe that?
And as if to confirm everything, Raghu overheard the school's elderly caretaker say this to Fakira as he handed over the day's collection. God bless you, Fakira. Because of you, these children can study. And in that one moment, it all just clicked. The whole puzzle came together.
Okay, so this discovery is amazing, but it just opens up an even bigger question, right? Who was this guy, really? And that takes us to part 3, The Millionaire's Past.
Get ready for this. The beggar everyone called Fakira, his real name was Ranveer Singh. And he wasn't just some guy. He was once the wealthiest, most powerful businessman in the entire city. No joke.
I mean, look at this contrast. It is absolutely staggering. You have Ranveer Singh, the millionaire, living in a mansion, driven by pure greed, who becomes Fakira, a beggar living in a shack, driven by this deep need for atonement. So, what on earth could make someone do that? What could cause such a complete 180? Well, it all goes back to one single horrible event. See, back when he was driven by greed, Ranveer illegally seized land that belonged to an orphanage, all to build a new factory. But then, tragedy struck. A fire broke out, and dozens of those displaced kids who were sheltering nearby, they were killed. And the guilt, it just ate him alive. He actually told Raghu later on, "My greed took the lives of innocents. This is my penance." So he just gave it all up. His fortune, his name, his entire identity. All to spend the rest of his life trying to give back what he had so brutally taken away. But his story isn't over. His journey towards redemption was about to demand one final, ultimate price. This brings us to part 4, a final sacrifice. So out of nowhere, disaster strikes. A devastating flood just rips through the city, and the low-lying area where the school was, it gets completely engulfed by the rising water, trapping all 70 of those children inside. And without even a second of hesitation, Ranveer just plunges into that raging water. He's fighting the current, carrying kids to safety one by one, over and over again. He does it. He saves every single child. But on his last trip back, exhausted, the current was just too strong, and it swept him away. And just like that, he was gone. The man the entire city only knew as a quiet, invisible beggar had just given his own life to save them all. But his death, it wasn't the end of his story. In fact, it was the beginning of his true legacy. Which brings us to our final section, the unsung hero's legacy. When the city finally learned the truth, people were just stunned. I mean, can you imagine? The newspapers ran these huge front-page headlines calling him the millionaire beggar. And that young boy, Raghu, Inspired by this incredible sacrifice, he vowed to continue Ranveer's mission. The school was rebuilt, renamed the Ranveer Foundation, and today it educates thousands of kids.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, Ranveer's story really gives us a powerful new way to think about heroism, doesn't it? It shows us that true heroism isn't measured by how famous you are or how much money you have. It's measured by that quiet, unseen dedication to changing the lives of others for the better. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Ranveer Singh went from being a villain to a hero, all while the world saw him as a complete nobody. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? After hearing this, who is a true hero in your eyes?